Chapter 1. Confession. If there's a bad decision to make, I will make it. Drunk dialing is never a smart move, but drunk dialing a married man? That is a monumentally stupid move. That was the thought rolling around Robbie's muddled brain as he stood with his best friend Elliot at the bar of Crush and tossed back his fourth bitter bitch. The conversation he was having with himself wasn't a new one, or a welcome one, he thought, as he swayed on his feet and kind of stumbled into the stool beside him. But forgetting his lonely life with alcohol and men who were all wrong for him seemed like an increasingly good way to cope tonight. The hum and throb of the bass beat was rattling through him, but instead of feeling the pull he usually did to head out to the dance floor and have fun, tonight it seemed to be having the opposite effect. It was making him think really stupid thoughts. "You're so wasted, Bianchi," Elliot said as he grabbed Robbie's arm and guided him to the bar stool. "What's that, your third shot? And how many margaritas did you have at dinner?" Robbie held up 2, then 3 fingers and shrugged. Who cares? Everyone had their New Year's on Sunday. Tonight's mine, and I want to celebrate." "If you celebrate anymore, you aren't going to remember your first night out of the new year." Don't care," Robbie said as he waved his hand through the air with flourish and leaned a little too much into the action. Luckily, Elliot was there to prop him up. "I want to have fun tonight. Do something I shouldn't." Elliot leaned his elbows back on the bar so he was facing the dance floor and said, "Why don't you get out there and let someone do you instead? You look gorgeous tonight, darling." He's right. I do look cute, Robbie thought. In his skinny jeans and purple V-neck tee that was practically a second skin, Robbie had gone all out with smoky eyes and a new pink shade of gloss he'd bought a couple of days ago that tasted like, strawberries. He could totally hit the dance floor, find a willing man, and let him do all kinds of things. But that seemed so boring tonight, so normal, and so not what he wanted. He wanted wild. He wanted adventure. He wanted danger. And when the 2 men he knew were both those things entered his mind, Robbie quickly shook his head, trying to shake them free. "Stop thinking about them," he ordered himself, but that was easier said than done. One of them was one of the sexiest men he'd ever seen, and the other the most frustrating. And what was worse was that he couldn't have either of them even if he wanted to. What was with everyone being fucking married all of a sudden, and to each other? But, the dreams he'd been having lately, the 3 of them all sweaty and naked, they were enough to make him want to, No, that is the worst idea you could have, Robbie told himself. Drunk or sober, worst idea ever. Plus, you don't even like one of them, so stop obsessing over it. "Earth to Robbie?" Elliot said, waving a hand, and Robbie shrugged. I don't know, I'm just not in the mood." "You're not in the mood to grind all over a naked man? Oh, okay, where the hell is my best friend and what did you do with him?" Elliot asked as he swept his black bangs out of his eyes. "I don't know." Robbie slumped forward on the bar, dramatic as ever, and looked up at Elliot from under his lashes. "I think I'm in a state of mourning, Al, and I don't know how to get out of it." Elliot frowned. "Is this about Logan? I thought you were happy for him and Tate." "I am, but they just got engaged and now all of a sudden he's married." "Married?" "I know, babe, but you knew it was coming." "Doesn't make it any easier. Knowing there are 2 more beautiful men off the market forever due to a ring and a piece of paper is just depressing." "2 more men?" Elliot said, regarding him with a suspicious eye. "Who else do you know who's hitched?" "Julian," Robbie thought instantly as an image of the famous chef came to mind. Julian the Prick Thornton. And this time, as Julian's name ran through Robbie's head, he made a point to roll the Jewel over his tongue the way Julian had when he'd introduced himself that night at the bar. "That's right, Julian, I'm gay, gorgeous, and oh yeah, married to your worst enemy, Thornton. He was hitched." "No one," Robbie said and pouted. Then he swiveled on the stool to look out at the men gyrating all over one another. "You go and play for the both of us. I'm going to just sit here and—" "Ferment? Okay, that word is too big for my brain right now," Robbie said and winced. "Go and feel up the muscles and men for me. Someone should get some enjoyment out of them." Elliot pursed his lips. "Oh, I don't know. I'm just going to sit here. Not going anywhere," Robbie promised, crossing a finger over his chest. "Your heart is on the other side, genius." Robbie switched sides and did it again. "I'm just going to drown my sorrows, so my body hurts tomorrow and will take my mind off my broken heart." Cheer up, Buttercup. Your Prince Charming will come to you one day soon." "Well, until then," Robbie gestured for the bartender, "I'm going to drink myself into a deep slumber in the hopes that maybe he'll come on me, or, at least kiss me back to life." Elliot placed a hand on Robbie's arm. "Do not go anywhere. I'll be back for you." "I can't feel my legs to move, so I'll stay like a good little boy." "Don't know how good you are, but," Elliot chuckled. Then, before he headed out to the dance floor, said, "Where's your phone?" Robbie dug into his pants pocket and pulled it free. Elliot opened the contacts and scrolled down to his name, and then set it on the bar in front of Robbie. "You need me? Call. Do not leave this seat." Robbie touched his fingertips to his temple in a sloppy salute, and then hiccuped, "Yes, sir." "Okay, be back for you soon." Elliot then turned to the bartender and said, "No more after this for him." When the bartender nodded, Robbie's mouth fell open. "Hello, you're not my mother." "Lucky for you, she'd be spanking your ass right now, not to mention your sisters, and I'm sure you'd much rather have that done by a man who would then pound it afterward. I'll be back." Robbie dismissed Elliot with a wave of his hand, and then took great interest in scrolling up and down his list of contacts, searching for someone to occupy his time. It wasn't until he saw Julian's number that he realized how drunk he was, because that was the only excuse he could think of as to why he hit call. Well, that and, if there's a bad decision to make, I will make it. "Do you like it?" Julian asked from where he sat at the dining room table opposite his husband, Joel Priestley, who had just taken a bite of the new dish he had prepared for him this evening. In the process of compiling the final entrees for his restaurant opening next month, Julian waited on edge for the final vote that always went to Priest, currently taking a sip of his Pinot Noir that had been paired with tonight's meal. Priest swallowed and brought a napkin to his mouth to gently wipe the corners of his lips. Julian couldn't hold his tongue anymore and said, "Your silence is killing me, mon amour." "And your impatience is killing me. Let me savor it, Julian. Let me enjoy what you spent all day perfecting." "All week," Julian corrected him. "And I'm more one for instant gratification." "Yes, but even you curb that when instructed to do so. Now, do so, and let me enjoy my meal." Julian bit his tongue and snapped open his napkin before laying it across his lap. Priest raised an eyebrow, challenging him to speak, but Julian was smart enough to know when to open his mouth and when not to. He'd purposely set the stage tonight for a fine dining experience. From the elegant place settings to the wine glasses and folded napkins, and then he delivered his winning number. Margaritas canard aux cerises avec une sauce au porto. Seared duck breast with cherries and port sauce. He watched Priest closely as the sharp blade of his knife sliced through the tender meat, and he brought it to his mouth, and Julian licked his lower lip in anticipation. He'd always loved watching Priest eat a meal. Some might think that was strange, but not to him, a creator of edible art by profession. Watching Priest take his time to enjoy a creation of his was incredibly satisfying, if not, at times, frustrating. There was something highly erotic about cooking and eating a meal with the person you loved. And long ago, Julian had realized the weight and importance of Priest's approval, and how it never failed to excite when he got it. "Viens ici," Priest said, as he lowered his fork to the plate and looked over at Julian, expectation in his eyes. Julian got to his feet, and as he rounded the end of the table, he kept his eyes on the man watching him in total silence. Chaos wrapped in classic sophistication. That's my husband, Julian thought, because only Priest could sit stoically in a room and yet make it feel as though it were vibrating with electricity from the intensity of his stare. As Julian got closer, Priest pressed a button on the remote to their stereo, and when the song Young at Heart by Sinatra filled the room, Julian's pulse began to race. That was his song. As Julian came to a stop by his husband's side, Priest looked up at him. This meal was delicious. By far one of the best things I've ever put in my mouth. Julian trailed the back of his fingers down Priest's cheek. That's a high compliment, knowing firsthand how many things have been in this mouth. Priest reached up, quick as a bolt of lightning, and took hold of Julian's wrist. Watch yourself, Julian. Just because I am pleased doesn't mean you should run your tongue. Or maybe you should. That could be fun, too. Truly, though, this meal was the best yet. Julian's cock throbbed at the compliment, and he inclined his head slightly. Merci beaucoup. Priest moved back from the table and turned on his seat so he could tug on Julian's arm, making him step in between his spread thighs. Au contraire, I believe it's my turn to thank you. And I find I want to end the night on a high note, and nothing but a taste of you can do that. As Priest released Julian's wrist, and his fingers went to the button of his pants, he unfastened them, but Julian stilled him. No, Jules, you're too wound up. Just a taste, Priest said, and such an appeal wasn't something Julian heard often, so he relented. Okay, just a taste. As Priest moved to his knees, he allowed himself to get lost in the moment. With his favorite, old Blue Eyes, serenading them, he basked in the sight of the striking man in front of him and was, as always, incredibly proud to call Julian his. But ever since the Christmas party at his new law firm, Mitchell and Madison, the tension around the household had gotten to where they needed to blow off some steam or they'd combust. They had had a plan, one they had talked about at length, on the best way to approach Robert Bianchi, and when that plan had spun out of control, Priest had become antsy and Julian had put up the "Do not enter me" sign, knowing full well the mood his husband was in. So tonight, Priest would give him this instead. He took hold of Julian's hip, and when Julian circled the base of his erection and pointed it toward him, Priest traced the tip of it with his tongue. Would you like me to suck it for you? Priest said, his voice raspy. You've definitely earned it. I have, haven't I? You've been such a grouch lately, Julian said, as his chest rose and fell under the lightweight burgundy sweater he wore. It was true. Priest had been overly irritable of late, and while Julian was able to temper his dominant side, it took something very specific to pull Priest back from an edge like the one he was currently on. Something that Julian wasn't willing to give up entirely. His control. Priest didn't respond, merely dropped his eyes to the wool and said, Take off your sweater. Julian didn't hesitate. He reached for the hem of the cashmere, and as he inched it up his torso, his sculpted body came into view, and the cut lines of his physique had Priest's cock thickening in an instant. Julian's shoulders and left bicep were decorated with intricate swirls of ink, and across his left pec the word Amore was written in script. As he pulled the sweater off, the tattoo shifted and made Priest want to get to his feet so he could trace it with the tip of his tongue. But when Julian tossed the garment to the floor, impatient, Priest growled at the move and smoothed his hands up Julian's sides until he reached his nipples and pinched both of them hard. Putain! Julian shut his eyes as he thrust his pelvis forward. Stunning, Priest said, in such a reverent tone that Julian's eyes opened back up. You are stunning, Julian. Julian pulled on his hair, angling Priest's head back, and the arousal both of them had been denying themselves was displayed in Julian's eyes and flushed cheeks. "Prove it," Julian said, and Priest ran his hands over Julian's ribs and around to his ass until he held a firm cheek in each palm and tugged him forward so he could scrape his teeth along Julian's hip. Julian grunted at the sting of pain, and Priest burrowed his nose into the V of his groin and inhaled, loving the freshly showered scent mixed with the heady fragrance of Julian's sex. It was times like this that he wished he knew how to temper himself, but with the adrenaline coursing through him, Priest knew if he got inside this man, it wouldn't be an easy ride. As Julian urged Priest's face closer to the neatly trimmed curls surrounding his cock, his erection brushed up against the short scruff Priest had grown this winter, and a tortured sound of ecstasy escaped him. "C'est bon," Julian said, as Priest moved his cheek up and down his sensitive flesh, and judging by the sound that rumbled out of Julian's throat, it felt really fucking good. Oh, suck me, Joel. Ask me nicely, and I might. Suck me, Joel, s'il te plaît. Troublemaker, Priest thought, and looked up at the mischief swirling in Julian's eyes. He took note to later punish Julian for that, as he moved to swipe his tongue over the slick pre-cum gathered at the head of Julian's cock. That was when the intrusive sound of a ringtone echoed around the room. Julian froze in place as Priest raised his head and pinned him with annoyed eyes. Je suis désolé. I thought it was on silent. And you know better, Priest said as he got to his feet. It should be off. This isn't a movie theater. You shouldn't need reminding for that and your lack of manners a second ago. You can wait here like this until I'm done with whoever is on the phone. Then I'll decide whether or not you still deserve to come. That's just mean, even for you. Keep it up, Priest said, aiming his eyes at Julian's erection as he walked over to the kitchen where the phone sat on the counter. Or I'll make it a week. Salon. Yes, I am, Priest said, and when he looked down at the screen, the name and number flashing across it had his annoyance somewhat dissipating. Well? Julian asked. Priest aimed a pointed look Julian's way. I believe you're going to like this little turn of events. Julian looked down at his angry cock and shook his head as Priest walked back to him with the phone in hand. Highly doubtful. Priest wrapped a hand around his husband's stiff length, making Julian grab at the dining room table for support. Don't you know by now you should never doubt me? Priest then hit accept on Julian's phone and brought it to his ear. Robert Bianchi, didn't anyone ever teach you that it's poor form to call
Hey there,
another man's
I'm Charlie,
husband
the
this
guy
way?
behind the Border to Border Entertainment channel. A lot of the TV shows and movies and videos that are posted here are ones that I created. I want to invite you to join my channel. It's our own club and it's named after what I like to do best. We make love stories. Let me break it down for you. In Tier 1, you're telling the world, I like love stories. You'll rock a loyalty badge that screams, I belong, that changes each month that you're a member. Plus, you'll unlock our own channel emojis to make your comments pop. And trust me, I'll always slide into your comments first. Priorities, right? And maybe you're ready to say, I love love stories. In Tier 2, you'll get early access to new videos and podcasts, because who doesn't like being first? And you'll also get exclusive members-only photos and status updates on the community board. Oh, and of course, everything from Tier 1 comes along for the ride. And for my biggest, boldest lovers, Tier 3 is for those who want to say, we make love stories, together. This is where the real action happens. Members-only videos, some that are too hot for YouTube, trust me, it's our little secret. Oh, and don't worry, you still get all the perks from Tiers 1 and 2. So whether you like, love, or want to make love stories, there's a place for you in my club. Just hit that join button below, pick your level, and let's take this relationship to the next level.